show, faithfully sharing insights and exploring the world's great books. Hi there, this is Sally with the Book Chat. Today, I'm going to dive into this novel, The Life of Arseniev, written by the first Russian author to win the Nobel Prize in Literature. Ivan Bunin. Can a writer truly convey his soul's journey in this world through fiction, transcending his time and homeland to deeply move others? Well, for us today, that's exactly what Bunin was wrestling with back in 1921. At 51, he'd already made a name in literature, but he yearned to write a book free from outside stuff, just pouring out his heart about his life, all he'd seen, felt, pondered, loved, and hated in this world. And he did it. This is The Life of Arseniev, the book we're unpacking now. Bunin claimed it was fiction, but experts reckon it's clearly an artistic memoir. Written from 1927 to 1933, it's both a deep, aching look back at his youth and a longing for Tsarist Russia, that old world. With its down-to-earth yet poetic style and sharp insights, Bunin carried on the classic Russian prose tradition. Oh, the same year the book came out in 1933, Bunin snagged the Nobel Prize. In an interview, Bunin said, "I'm convinced the Swedish Academy honored me for The Life of Arseniev." Bunin was born in 1870 to a provincial noble family in Tsarist Russia, away from the hubs of power and culture. The family owned huge estates in Petersburg and Moscow, produced politicians, artists, and poets, truly blue-blooded. Bunin had a free-spirited childhood, got hooked on lit, published his first poetry book at 17, his debut story at 21, and by the late 1800s, his family fortunes were fading. But after 1900, he released a bunch of shorts and poems, climbing the ranks in Russian letters, buddying up with big names like Gorky and Chekhov. In 1917, Russia was rocked by back-to-back revolutions, February and October, ending the Tsarist era and bringing in the Soviet Union. After 1920, Bunin left the Soviet Union and moved to France, where he continued writing poetry and novels. Yet he considered himself part of a vanished old world. This world was vast, profound, and sentimental, preserving the true essence of Russian culture. So based on his youth, he wrote The Life of Arseniev, Bunin's only full-length novel. In the novel, protagonist Alexander Arseniev, like Bunin, was born in central Russia, spending childhood in serene rural life. Later, pursuing love and ideals, he repeatedly left home, nostalgically reminiscing in unfamiliar cities. Through Bunin's narrative, we enter a Russian country boy's inner world, glimpsing a vivid facet of the Russian soul. The novel's first part captures Alexander's earliest memories of home. It was Kamenka village, manor, farmlands, blue skies, white clouds, fields, barns, vines, and straw. Such natural, quiet elements formed his entire universe. Alexander's father, a country nobleman, never worked. His three loves were post-nap soda, hunting, and playing old Russian songs on guitar. His mother was kind, sentimental, and prone to tears. Witnessing her tears and hearing her mournful songs made Alexander deeply sensitive. He realized life's suffering springs from all we love, especially cherished people. The constant fear of losing loved ones alone is torment enough. Alexander said childhood burdened him with love's weight, grateful for life from his mother, yet perpetually wounded. He felt as long as she lived, he could never fully repay her. And yet he dreaded imagining life after losing her even more. This maternal feeling later infused his romantic pursuits. Without love, he felt lost and anxious. With it, he became terrified of losing it, trapped in perpetual anguish. Toward all beautiful things, Alexander felt joy in possession, yet terror at potential loss. When Alexander reached school age, following Tsarist Russian nobility custom, his family hired him a tutor. This tutor was named Baskakov, and Alexander really liked him. He said Baskovov opened up a complex, intense emotional world for him. Baskovov taught him to read and copy Russian translations of Don Quixote, told him knightly tales, medieval castles, battles and knighting ceremonies, Age of Discovery sailing legends, and those mysterious, exotic landscapes. They read Robinson Crusoe together and the Globe Traveler magazine. Baskovov was a rebellious, noble youth who'd completely severed ties with his wealthy family. He shared his own bittersweet experiences with Alexander while guiding him to heroic literature. Thus, Alexander realized authentic, personal experiences are often painful, while sublime beauty comes from books. Later, Alexander's life formed this same duality. Growing up, he gained immense passion and joy through reading, envisioning life's possibilities. But in real life, especially romance, he kept hitting walls, just like that. By gradually knowing his parents, siblings, nannies, servants, and tutor, connecting with them, Alexander confirmed he wasn't living alone. He originally only remembered summer since his family often took him out then, later realizing autumn, winter, and spring existed. Memories of those 3 seasons were scarce: darkening skies outside, howling north winds, swirling snow, them cozy indoors enjoying warmth. Simply put, Alexander's earliest life experiences involved knowing, observing, discovering, being with family, seeing landscapes, hearing stories, dispelling loneliness. And his hometown was the center of his life and understanding. Near the end of part 1, a small climax emerges in Alexander's memories. After 4 years of home education, he now left Baskovov and entered a provincial secondary school. That early autumn, after enrollment, he went hunting with his father. The weather was warm, and he saw rooks standing silently on a hillside, seemingly deep in thought. His father said rooks always fly far away when autumn comes, and now they were preparing. Oh, at that moment, a wave of parting emotions surged through Alexander's heart. He realized he too stood at a farewell turning point. He was about to bid summer goodbye, welcome autumn and winter, and leave behind the countryside life of the border region. He'd live as a secondary student, gradually distancing from family, meeting others. Neighborhood kids usually disliked school anyway. Alexander had an ominous feeling about secondary school. He said there were weird folks called teachers at school whose whole mission was trapping students in dreariness. It terrified him. He couldn't grasp why he was sent to be their slave, why torn from home. Then he saw a colt and recalled wanting it badly once, but later forgot. Now watching it plow under a teenage boy's whip, it hit him, vaguely feeling nothing's reliable in this world. In the future, he'd forget things just like this colt. He'd forget his tutor Baskakov and his dearly beloved sister Olia. With this hunt as a turning point, Alexander entered a new phase, experiencing parting firsthand. Home's peace was his spiritual wealth, but it also became anxiety and fear's source. Terrified of loss, at school, though studies came easy, homesickness deepened. When father first visited him in town, folks even claimed kinship as they walked, all deepening his home yearning. Earlier, Alexander felt peculiar sweetness and sorrow toward a girl his brother brought home. Around 14, in 4th grade, his girl longing reawakened. By then, he was captivated by Russia's greatest poets, Pushkin, Lermontov, and others. He felt he should follow these great men's footsteps and become a poet too. So he believed, while still not grasping love fully, his hometown offered richer inspiration. He resolved to return home after 5th grade, never setting foot in school again. But by then, his hometown had transformed, starting with its location. After Alexander's grandmother passed, they moved from Kamenka to Paternino. They acquired a larger estate with denser forests. Alexander loved this estate, but Paternino had no books. To read, he had to trek across snowy fields to his cousin's village about 10 kilometers away. Secondly, the family grew poor. The Tsarist era was ending. Class conflicts intensified. Peasant labor costs rose, and they became harder to manage. Landlords lost their workforce. Plus, grain prices kept falling. Country life got tough. Meanwhile, socialist ideas swept Russia, sparking revolutionary zeal in youth who rejected inheriting estates. Alexander's parents couldn't stop this decline. Another change: the children were growing up. His second brother joined the socialist movement, got hunted by gendarmes, and fled. The eldest married and moved out. Worse still, Alexander's cousin-in-law died. With fewer young men, the village felt decayed and desolate. Later, his second brother was arrested after a neighbor snitched during a home visit, freed only after a year. For the parents, this was an emotional roller coaster. His mother wept bitterly, his father held back tears, got drunk, then begged gendarmes for a better train carriage for his son. When his brother returned, they had one last reunion. But when Alexander dropped out after fifth grade, his feelings changed. He'd grown disappointed with home. Two reasons. First, his literary career had begun, and he craved more life experience. One day, he'd just received his first published poetry collection and royalties, thrilled beyond words. Coincidentally, his father sent him to a grain buyer to check prices and sign a contract if fair. So Alexander went. The buyer was cold initially, offering a very low price. And learning Alexander was a published poet, he offered hard-won advice. He said, "Staying stuck in the village, not observing life, just casually reading and half-heartedly writing, that won't lead anywhere bright." Oh, these words instantly sparked thoughts of leaving his hometown in him. The second reason was that Alexander had officially entered his romantic phase, but rural customs made him feel stifled. He'd had crushes at school, but with no sex education back home, he remained a shy, flustered boy. After dropping out and returning home, just wanting to read and write, he got drawn to a neighbor's maid. That girl was Antonika, dark-skinned, already married, with a mature yet innocent beauty. One winter night, Alexander couldn't help but force a kiss on her. Afterwards, he was super nervous yet felt relieved, like breaking through a barrier. But soon his eldest brother found out. His brother warned, "Cut ties with Antonika now, or you're heading straight for ruin." Shortly after, Antonika got fired. Hearing this, Alexander despaired. Though disappointed with home, his leaving was hesitant and drawn out. His nature and deep hometown memories meant he couldn't cut ties cleanly or act fast. When confused, he'd wallow in confusion and reflection, because thinking filled him up. He even felt staying put. This outpouring of hometown love could bring him a kind of honor. Alexander said, "I'm restless, asking in this bewildering, eternal cosmos, in past and future's infinity, in my hometown and personal space-time curve. What's my life really for? I see life as just days and nights, work and rest, meetings and chats, joy and worry. Sometimes it's big events swapping places, a messy pile of impressions, scenes, and faces. Yet somehow only the tiniest bit sticks with us. Life's just a relentless stream of disconnected thoughts and feelings, chaotic past memories, and hazy future guesses. Some truth, meaning, purpose. It's all elusive beyond words. Life, then, is eternal waiting for happiness, for meaning to show up. So Alexander lingered at home in hesitation until his hometown itself bid him farewell. One day, his father approached him gravely. "You need to work now. We can't support all three brothers anymore." "I'm sorry, but remember, nothing's worse than sorrow, whatever happens." The novel's next section covers Alexander's wandering phase, finally leaving home for a second-tier city. En route to Kharkiv, just watching train passengers fascinated him. Beyond home's borders, everything felt alien. Once comforting scenes, farmers plowing, servants leading horses, gardeners pruning, now made him question, isn't this life dull? Even childhood joys like hunting and the rural nature that inspired his poetry lost their charm. Later, he traveled to Crimea, across southern Russia, and to Kyiv, Ukraine. Meanwhile, his father sold family land, funding Alexander's worldly explorations. The second brother married a kindred spirit, deepening Alexander's loneliness. He accelerated his search for an ideal partner, landing in another city, Oriel. There, he secured a position at the editorial office of the newspaper Golos The Voice. Oh, he also met Lika, a colleague's cousin, so familiar with the staff she was practically part of the team. As Alexander knew Lika, this memoir novel built toward its climax. Their relationship was volatile. Though dating, Lika blew hot and cold, even writing, "Don't visit me anymore." Lika's father met him. He said, "I like you, son, but if you pursue this, I won't bless it. I won't watch you two suffer poverty." Plainly, Alexander's family had declined. Wanting an ideal literary life, Lika's father deemed him unreliable. Each time Alexander tried venturing into new life, he failed. He'd retreat into memories of home, lost in recollection. Even though home had declined and family scattered, it remained a place of healing. Even just memories comforted him. Meanwhile, he reflected on his attitude toward Lika. Lika scolded him. "You only care about yourself, demanding everything suit your whims, robbing me of privacy, social life. You'd be thrilled if I became a recluse like you." Alexander reflected. "Well, I just don't like it." Lika was lively and cheerful in crowds, eager to please. Those moments she sought to shine. When attending social events with her, I always acted indifferent. Because I wanted to appear as an observer, someone spotting others' flaws, that satisfied me deeply. But truthfully, how I longed to be close. I adored her simplicity, quietness, gentleness, vulnerability. I loved seeing her cry. When she cried, her lips would instantly pucker like a child's. We see Alexander and Lika were mismatched in many ways. When Alexander spoke fondly of home and family, Lika looked cold. Alexander hated theater, calling actors pretentious, while Lika adored it passionately. Alexander tried impressing Lika with sharp observations and cutting remarks about others. But Lika didn't care. At balls, she'd accept others' invitations, leaving Alexander feeling lost. Alexander met his rival, a young, wealthy fur trader, not handsome but radiating confidence. Already shy, Alexander now felt utterly inferior. After this, accompanying Lika became torture. Lika dragged him to theater rehearsals he despised. On opening night, Alexander sat front row, surrounded by wealthy elites. He didn't finish Act One before fleeing the theater. Unable to bear it, he bolted into the street, consumed by inescapable loneliness. He saw the clean, deserted street lights casting still beams, too terrified to return to his inn. During refuge, he finally headed to the editorial office. So, along the way, church domes glowed gold, snow crunched underfoot. The silence felt terrifying. Oh, back at the editorial office, he felt Lika's presence everywhere again. He deeply feared the moment Lika would return laughing with others. This failure cut bone deep. As a literary country squire, this exposed Alexander's flaws most starkly. The blow hit harder than ever. Alexander felt life unbearable, lying in his inn bed, wondering why in this meaningless night's darkness. Staring at the narrow window, it seemed like a mute, lanky gray monster. But this low point sparked writing urges for what reality denied him. He sought fulfillment through words. His bond with literature grew fiercer. Meanwhile, he shifted focus to others in town, noticing mothers caring for children, noticing coachmen hurrying out at dawn, noticing faithful folk heading to church. The novel's final phase, Alexander and Lika married after all. Post-wedding, they had stable sweetness. Lika softened, dropping things Alexander disliked. Yet, Alexander grew harsher toward Lika. His rising literary career heightened his aesthetic standards. He dismissed many of Lika's thoughts as vulgar. He forbade Lika from seeing other men, yet bragged to her about his own flirtations. These actions finally drove Lika to despair. She left a note and vanished. She wrote, "I can't watch you drift away nor endure your endless worsening insults. My love, my humiliations peaked, all foolish hopes and dreams shattered. May God grant strength to bear our parting. Forget me. Find happiness in your new freedom. After reading this, Alexander felt ground vanish, face tighten cold, yet blurted shamelessly, "What's the fuss?" I should have seen this collapse coming. Utterly ordinary, shameless. These four words are straight from the book. This shows that when recalling his youth, Alexander, or rather Bunin himself, was filled with deep regret over his actions. From today's perspective, Alexander's failed romance and marriage stemmed from his hypersensitivity, emotional depth, and persistent immaturity. He craved love, but was never prepared for marriage. Whether he had it or not, jealousy consumed him. On the other hand, his life expectations were overly idealistic. Moreover, his favorite poets, Pushkin and Lermontov, both died in duels, so he always believed even the deepest pain could be ended by death. Even subconsciously, death represented a kind of personal transcendence. So after Lika left, Alexander thought, worst case, I'll just kill myself. But precisely because he kept thinking all ended eventually, he never acted, instead opening his heart to life's experiences. The novel brims with poetic language depicting rural central Russia, revealing the writer's homeland nostalgia. Especially notable are portrayals of common folk. Bunin captured the Russian national character. For instance, Alexander once lodged with a poor landlord family surviving on plain fare. The landlord told Alexander, "Young master must grow accustomed to everything. We're ordinary Russians. We don't serve fancy dishes." His firm, proud tone profoundly shook Alexander. After parting with Lika, Alexander met two homeless men. One stood under a riverside street lamp, hands under arms, barefoot in snow, wearing tattered cotton and pink shorts. Cloudy-eyed, trembling like a wretched dog, he mumbled, "Sir." The other was utterly different. After giving them money, Alexander exclaimed, "Your life is terrifying." The homeless man retorted hoarsely in a rough, fierce tone, Israeli in a rough, fierce tone, a tarrowing, hoarsely in a rough, fierce tone, "Nothing's terrifying, young man." Though the novel offers little commentary, Bunin conveys Russian dignity through this contrast. Meanwhile, this dignified homeless man deepened Alexander's reflection amid his pain. At the novel's end, Alexander returns to being alone. He decided to return to his parents' estate in Baturno. On the train journey, no matter the stop, he could recall beautiful yet sorrowful memories of the past. Returning home, Alexander's mood was heavy. He witnessed the relentless force of time. His parents were elderly, and his sister no longer young and beautiful. The estate's atmosphere was desolate, the house dilapidated, with only the howling wind and winter dogs barking. Alexander was 20 when he returned home. His father was 60. Though only 20, Alexander could truly discuss life with his father. He said, "Now, as a man who's lived through it, Father understands me best. No one else has sensed the conflict of grief and youthful energy within me like he has." One day, Father played a cheerful guitar tune in his study. He played while keeping rhythm, humming softly. Bunin wrote, "This guitar held a sad smile, telling of precious things lost. And life must end anyway, it's not worth weeping over." Another day, Father held a cigarette with a trembling, withered hand, looking at his son with melancholy tenderness. He called him my friend, saying, "All right, my friend. Everything has its reason, whether the anxieties, sorrows, or joys of youth, or the peace and tranquility of old age." In the novel's end, Lika never returned to Alexander. The following spring, he died of pneumonia. One night, Alexander dreamed of Lika. Her beauty faded, wearing mourning clothes. The novel writes he vaguely saw her, yet his heart was filled with intense love and joy, experiencing that physical and spiritual closeness. This profound ending speaks to Bunin's own feelings. He once said this novel isn't an autobiography. It's a blend of all human suffering, temptation, contemplation, and joy. This bewildering world, however sorrowful, is still beautiful. The whole story of Arseniev's life is roughly told, though the novel only covers the protagonist's first 20 years. But this is precisely Bunin's lifelong theme, a 20-year-old youth's anguished love experiences. For Bunin, youth could be seen as life itself, at least the part most worth writing about. Hometown and love are the novel's twin themes. Alexander cherished his hometown where all beautiful memories lived, yet it limited his worldview and personality. When entering society, he desperately needed love as emotional sanctuary. Yet each setback made him long for home more intensely. Finally, after winning love against odds, it still ended in a messy breakup. A country boy's quest for love and self led only to hardship and anguish. The novel's power comes from Bunin's exquisite writing and raw honesty. He poured his most precious life experiences into these pages. Arseniev and Lika's love mirrors Bunin's own with his first love, Varvara Pashchenko. At 19, Bunin fell for Pashchenko, moving to Oriol to be near her. That her father opposed their marriage. Pashchenko hesitated. They fought constantly. After 3 years, they parted. Like Alexander, Bunin sank into misery, contemplating but never attempting suicide. Yet Bunin wrote relentlessly. Through memory and words, he reclaimed lost time and his entire existence, granting them rebirth. As Proust said, what matters isn't living captive to illusions, but recovering lost time and paradise in memory. That's the only truth. In this novel, Bunin resurrected the idyllic estate of his youth. Through remembrance and writing, he understood himself and his era more clearly. Thus, he achieved the great ambition mentioned earlier, revealing a profoundly sensitive soul through this novel. All he witnessed, felt, pondered, loved, and hated, fermented by time, became humanity's precious spiritual legacy. In 1953, Bunin, after 33 years in exile, passed away in Paris at age 83. By the late 20th century, after Bunin's death, Russian academia listed him top among 5 writers most worthy of 21st century study. This is high recognition of Bunin's lifelong literary contributions. Gorky once said, affectionately, without Bunin, that lonely traveler bound to Russian culture, and without his dazzling soul rainbow preserved in words, all Russian literature would dim. All right, that concludes our interpretation of the Life of Arseniev for you. Listening notes in the audio.